Hello and welcome to the first video on the Fleet Signal YouTube channel. My name is Alex and today I'm going to be taking a look at this, the Firestorm Armada 2nd edition rulebook. This was released in December 2013 and in my opinion it's the best space combat game of its type available today. It's brilliant. It's so good that I've decided to start a website and a channel and everything else dedicated to Firestorm Armada, and also to Firestorm Planetfall eventually. I first started to play Firestorm Armada back when it first released. Then I played for a few months, fell out of the game for a while, but this brought me back into the game because it's that good. So let's have a look at what this rulebook is all about and what's inside. Let's have a flick through. So front cover, you see a Terran ship, Directorate ship, Firestorm Armada 2nd edition, published by Spartan Games, of course. On the back, you see some blurb. You know, if you're browsing this in a game store, then you'd see, you'd read it maybe. Firestorm Armada is a fast-paced, exciting tabletop game of spaceship combat set in a deadly, distant future. Yeah. And it also shows you the scale as well. It's not easy to find on the web, actually, that information. What scale is Firestorm Armada? Well, apparently it's 1 to 10,000 scale. Although I don't know of anyone who's actually built a Terran ship like this to actually test the scale, but if Spartan Games says it's 1 to 10, then it's 1 to 10,000. So let's have a look inside. Okay, so you got the cover artwork again, 2nd edition. Unlike the 1st edition rulebook that I remember playing, because I know there's a 1.5 rulebook as well, and I never actually saw that. But the original rulebook had like the table of contents on the inside back cover. It didn't have a title page. It was kind of badly laid out. So with this rulebook, that's all changed. It's got a proper presentation. Nice, nice picture there of a Rethosa ship, and you have a table of contents. Now the cool thing about this book is that everything is color coded. All the sections are color coded. So if, for example, you needed to find firing options, page 62. Well, you can either go to page 62, or you can quickly flick through the book like this, and then we're at the green part, and there you go, firing options. So everything's color coded, so you can quickly flick through the book, and you're in the right place when you get to a certain color on the side. So contents, and then the Firestorm Galaxy. Why is everyone fighting? What's going on? So this tells you about the Firestorm Galaxy and why everyone's at war. What is Firestorm Armada? Well, it's a war game, but this goes into more detail. It tells you what Firestorm Armada is all about. Lovely photography, as you'll see throughout the whole of this book. There's photography everywhere. Great photography, great models, great painting. Some Akron ships, some Ryushi ships. What you need to play? Well, you need a fleet, the core rulebook. This. You need some scenery and gaming space, basically a table and some scenery, tape measure, templates and tokens, dice, and then it goes into your first game. And you will need quite a bit of dice for this game. I mean, some attacks you'll be throwing up to about 20 odd dice. So those, when you get those like boxes of dice, those cubes of dice with like 36 dice, yeah, get one of them. Okay, so Kuruk Alliance and Xenian League. These are basically the two sides that the factions belong to. The Kuruk Alliance are not exactly the good guys, but they're not the bad guys either. They're kind of shades of grey. They're as good as maybe Space Marines in 40k are good. Everyone knows that Space Marines aren't exactly paragons of virtuousness or anything. They're kind of shady as well. So yeah, there's lots of shades of grey in Firestorm Armada. But yeah, you've got the Kuruk Alliance and you've got the Xenian League. And the Xenian League aren't exactly evil. They aren't exactly all bad guys, but at the same time, they're opposed to the the Kuruk Alliance. And yeah, they have different objectives in life than most of the Kuruk Alliance factions do. So here we've got the Terran Alliance and the Dendrenzi Federation. These are the kind of the main, protagonists, antagonists, whatever you want to call them, in the game. So we've got the Terrans, Dendrenzi. Part of the backstory is that the Terrans, once upon a time, blew up the Dendrenzi Federation's homeworld, Dramus, which is why you'll see Remember Dramus in a lot of the forums. And now the Dindrenzi are xenophobic and they hate anyone who isn't them. So yeah, and the Terrans like their nukes, and that's why, you know, they nuked the Dindrenzi homeworld. Then you've got the Aquam Prime that I play, who are basically Piscean people. They are fish people. Well, not all fish people, but they're, you know, aquatic people. You've got the Rothosa, who are space spiders, essentially. Yes, spaceships piloted by spiders. Then you've got the Ceridian Collective, who are essentially lizards. The Directorate, which is basically the only evil faction in this game. They're manipulating the Dindrenzi and causing them to fear anyone who isn't them, and, you know, basically the Directorate wants to keep everyone fighting so that they can make money from war, basically. And they also have some really cool ships as well. And then we go on to the Homeworlds. Each of the 6 core factions obviously has a homeworld, and this tells you all about them. There are also minor factions in this game as well, not just the 6 core factions. And the minor factions also belong to either the Alliance or the League, and I think there are some pirate factions as well. So we've got more fancy photography of Ceridians versus Rothosa, which is actually the rivalry in this game. And then we go on to game basics. Dice and exploding dice as well. This game does use the Spartan Games patent pending, probably maybe, exploding dice mechanic. So a 6 counts as 2 hits and you roll another dice. But not always. To hit modifiers, flight stands, taking measurements, all that kind of, you know, stuff that you need to know to play the game. Battle log, which is the cool way that this game replaces victory points. How to determine the random direction, which is really easy. Put the template down, you roll a dice, and whatever number comes up, that's the direction. Pretty easy. This isn't actually a hard game to learn at all. It's really easy to learn. And the good thing is that you can start with the basic rules and then layer on more and more stuff on top until you're playing the whole thing. Okay, so models and statistics. You know, what are the different types of ships? Carriers, battleships, leviathans, which haven't been released yet as of recording this. Model stats, damage rating, crit ratings, crew points. What do all those mean? Well, the rulebook tells you. Point defense, mines, more photography of an RSN, three RSN ships and a couple of Rothosa escorts. And then we get into like weapon stats, types of weapons, ranges and attack dice, arcs, fleet construction statistics, upgrades, accompaniments, an example of what a stat profile for a ship looks like over there. Let me put this down, and then let's see, game setup. So how to start a game, basically how to start playing a game of Firestorm Armada. So things like deployment and fleet size, and this is actually about building your fleet. So, you know, how do you assemble a fleet? Firestorm Armada fleets are split up into 3 basic types of fleet: patrol fleet, battle fleet, and grand fleet, and it's all based on points. So 800 or less is a patrol fleet, 801 to 1200 points is a battle fleet, and 1201 to 2000 points is a grand fleet. And I think most tournaments would probably run 800 to 1200 points, basically because of time, because it takes a long time to play anything bigger than that. And yep, there we go, fleet building, SRS tokens. SRS is what first edition used to call wings and fleets. Now they're called SRS, short range spacecraft. And the book actually tells you all about them later on. So using terrain, different types of terrain have different types of characteristics and stats. So this tells you what happens, you know, how does an asteroid field work? How does a comet tail work? A gas cloud, you know, how do those things, you know, how do all those space things work? Optional rule for moving terrain, orbital motion, if you want to get into that, you know. And then the order of play, which is how to play the game, the basic turn. This is the TAC phase, initiative phase, reserve phase, squadron activation phase. I can't talk today. And the end phase. There's something stuck on my rulebook. Right, so this is basic turn. And then it goes on to the command segment. What happens in a command segment? Oh, it tells you. Primary movement. There's primary movement and secondary movement. Primary movement is, well, moving your ship, basically. And secondary movement is things like coming to a full stop, fold space escape, which means that over 2 turns you can charge your fold space drives and then try to escape from the battlefield to stop your opponent from, you know, destroying your ship and getting points for it, or even capturing your ship. So you can escape. It's not fight to the death. And then we go on to the combat segment. How do you resolve combat? You know, how do you make an attack? And there's lots of diagrams to show you how, how things work. Critical hits, 0 hull points, crew loss. Crew does matter in this game. Damage effects, disorder tests. If a squadron goes down to a certain number of ships, then they have to make a disorder test, and if they fail, they're disordered. And it tells you what that means. Firing options. You can link fire and combine fire in this game. And it shows you there how to link fire with several different ships, which can actually help you. Like in these examples, show if there's terrain in front of you, or if you want to get a more powerful shot, then you can link fire. What do all the direct weapon systems mean? And what do all the indirect weapon systems mean? So it goes on and tells you about those things. Mines are really powerful in this edition of Firestorm Armada because they can cascade, as it says here. Any mines within 4 inches of each other may trigger, and if they do, then they blow up and do damage to everything in range. So you can have cascading domino effect of mines. Cyber warfare, which is pretty cool. You can hack different systems on a ship. Gravitational weapons, which can be used on allies as well. You can pull your friend out of danger or push them out of danger by firing a grav weapon at them if you're playing say a 2-on-2 game. So back on ships. Then we go on to targeted strikes. You can target a certain part of a ship, and for the bridge, the propulsion systems, weapon systems, life support systems, or the defensive systems. So you can target a certain part of the ship and try to take it down. It's like hacking, but more explosive. Damage effects. What happens when a ship is damaged? There's a crit table. You're on the table to find out, if someone has crit your ship, then they roll on the table and see what happens. Boarding assaults. You can board ships, and in this edition it's been made a lot more streamlined, a lot easier to understand how to board a ship. There's an example of how to board, and pretty much any ship I think can be boarded. Maybe not SRS, but any ship can be boarded, pretty much. And then the end phase. What happens in the end phase? Some more photography. Victory conditions. I mentioned the battle log earlier, which starts at 0 and then can go into minus or plus depending on what happens in the fight. So this tells you what happens. What happens when you kill some tier 3 models, some tier 2 models. What happens when you lose a squadron of models? Well, it tells you all there. And reserves, emergency shunt out, all that kind of stuff. Also retrieving TACs, which I'll talk about in a second. Margin of victory. Is it a draw? Is it a major victory? Is it a landslide victory? All that kind of stuff. And you can also play victory points if you want to. It's an optional rule, but the battle log is a pretty cool way of deciding a winner in this game. And then it talks about short-range spacecraft, SRS, fighters, interceptors, bombers, assault craft, and support shuttles. What do they all do? So yeah, shows you their stats as well. So attacks against models, SRS boarding assaults. Yes, SRS can make a boarding assault. Out of coherency, split berth, all that kind of stuff about SRS, and it gives you examples, lots of diagrams to show you how everything goes. And then you've got TACs, tactical ability cards. In first edition of Firestorm Armada, you had these cards called the star cards, 52 cards. You turn them over during the game, something random would happen, all that stuff. But in this game, they've been replaced, and you now use these TAC cards, which you get a deck of when you buy the starter set or a patrol fleet, and I think you can also download them online from the Spartan Games website, if I remember correctly. And basically, what the TAC cards do is you get 3 of them before you start playing. You decide on three cards, or maybe if you go to a tournament, you might decide on 3 cards that you want to use for your fleet, during that tournament. And then during the game, in the TAC phase, you can play a TAC card, assuming that you have any available to play. And once you've played it, it's used up. But you can buy it back for its buyback cost, and that costs battle points on the battle log. So it's kind of like a risk reward thing. Are you going to spend victory points that might help you to win the game to do something that might help you to win, the game even more so. So it's that kind of nuance thing to it. So yeah, now we're going to Mars, model assigned rules. There are a lot of them, and it looks like there's a lot of them. There's 54 of them actually. But most fleets are centered on specific Mars. Like the Indrenzi, for example, pretty much all have ablative plating. So they're all kind of all the factions kind of tend to have this. Each faction will have the same rule. Or share one particular rule or another. So you don't really have to try and memorize all of these. And over time, when you start playing, then you'll know what most of these do. So more artwork, and then we go on to scenarios. Border Clash is your straight up 8 inches deployment zone, 8 inches deployment zone. Let's fight. Then you've got escalating engagement, corner deployment zones, recover resources, hold the waypoints, capture the station, and ambush. And then at the back we've got some stats. And this is the clever part. The stats here are for the battleship, cruiser, and frigate, and for each faction you'll see they are same 3 ships. When you buy a patrol fleet, you get a battleship, a cruiser, and a frigate. So without even having to download the stats from the website, because the online patrol guides, the online fleet guides, are the most up-to-date stats for this game, and they're available on the Spartan Games website. But if you haven't downloaded those yet, maybe your internet is down that day, I don't know, maybe something's up, then you can play with these rules perfectly well. I think at the moment these stats actually mirror what's in the online fleet guides. So yeah, you can buy the rulebook, get a couple of patrol fleets, you and a friend, and start playing with these stats straight out of the book, which is pretty cool. So you've got the Terran, the Indrenzi, the Aquam Prime, the Relthusa, the Cerulean Collective, and the Directorate, the evil Directorate. And then at the back here you've got quick reference, like tables, crit table, which you'll probably refer to more than anything else in the game. And just tables that you might need at some point or another. This page tells you what all the game markers do. Don't cut this out. You can print this. You can print marker sheets from the Spartan Games website. Don't cut up your rulebook. And then you've got an index at the back for finding stuff. So that was a quick look at the Firestorm Armada 2nd edition rulebook. This is a really good game. I highly recommend checking it out. I was really surprised actually. I first heard about Firestorm Armada 2nd edition on Twitter when the D6 Generation posted about it, and thought, there's a 2nd edition. Well, I used to play this game. Let's go check it out. Maybe see what happens. Play with my old ships and see if it's any good. And like a few purchases later, I'm playing this game. So yeah, it's really good. Go and check it out if you possibly can. So that was the Firestorm Armada 2nd edition rulebook. If you like this video, then please hit like. If you disliked it, then hit dislike. And be sure to subscribe, so when a new video goes up on the channel, then YouTube will give you a ping. And don't forget to check out fleetsignal.com for Firestorm Armada articles and bits and pieces. So yeah, that's about it for this video. Until next time, see ya!